Okay, great. Greetings all. Welcome to week 7 of our Professionalism and Presence through Newman University. Tonight, our wonderful group of students will be presenting their capstone project on lessons learned. First one up is Jacqueline.
All right,
now,
good.
My friend, Jacqueline, can you put this in slideshow mode?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, honey. Pretty.
All right, so good evening. My name is Jacqueline Stanback, and I'm going to present my lessons learned. From week 1, we learned that first impressions are made in the first 7 seconds. So you want to make sure that you look good and feel good. You want to smile, you want to be confident and make eye contact. Within the first 4 minutes, certain determinations are made. We make determinations about someone's trustworthiness, their friendliness, their confidence. And another topic that we covered in week 1 was if you want to shake someone's hand, that you should ask them if they shake. Because of COVID, a lot of people do not want to make contact with people. So it's good to ask first before you go in and shake someone's hand. In week 2, we learned about the Lewis model. The Lewis model helps us give the right message the right way, depending on the culture and the communication style. So if you see the little model that I have here, the big circles on the bottom left is linear active, on the top is multi-active, and the yellow circle is the reactive communication style. If you look next to those, the circles, they have different cultures. Like the one above the blue linear active says United States. So if you are communicating with someone from the United States, you want to tailor your communication to their communication style so that they can receive the information that you want to give them. Week 3, we learned about networking and how it's a process and a skill, that it should be intentional, it should be planned, it should be practiced. And before you go, you want to think of what your purpose is. Is your purpose to exchange information? Is your purpose to ask for help or advice? A good networking tool to use is LinkedIn. Since we've started this course, I've gone in LinkedIn and I've tried to add everyone from this course. So if I didn't add you, please connect with me, Jacqueline Stanback. We also learned about the elevator speech in week 3. The elevator speech answers 2 questions. What do you do? And tell me more about you. For week 4, we learned about the business lunch and that you should have a purpose and goal for this business meeting. You want to do research on a location. You want to pick a location that's close to the customer. You want to choose a place where you can make a reservation, a place that takes special orders, and a place that has a varied menu. For example, not just Italian food, but different types of food. You want to set an agenda for the meeting, and you want to also make sure that you keep it to 1 hour or less. When you meet with the customer, you want to ask them what they hope to gain from your interaction. And at the end, you want to thank them and follow up and tell them what you will do next. Like if you're going to reach out an email, if you're going to set another meeting, if you're going to make a phone call. In week 5, we learned that the #1 business etiquette faux pas is being late. A rule of thumb is to arrive early for meetings. I try to arrive 5 minutes early. What I've noticed since taking this course is that a lot of my coworkers, if we have a 11 o'clock Zoom meeting, they come right at 11 o'clock. And when that happens, the meeting starts at like 11:05. So if you get there 5 minutes early, then the meeting can start on time and you're being respectful of other people's of other people's time. In terms of communication type, 55% of communication is nonverbal. As a result of that, at work, I never would turn my camera on. I will always have my camera off, but I now turn my camera on so my coworkers can see my nonverbal communication. Tone of voice is also, I think, 35%, and your spoken word is 7%. When it comes to communications, your communications should always be professional and they should always be direct. Another thing that I do since taking this course is asking people how they prefer to communicate. I prefer to communicate via email, but I know most of my coworkers actually prefer meeting in person. So I meet in person with them because that's the way that they prefer to communicate. Week 6, we learned to define the customer, that there are internal and external customers. We know that we should define the customer's vision and their mission. Their vision is what they want to do, and their mission is the steps to get there. We talked about communicating effectively. So when I have a meeting and I have something important, I will say it 3 times because 80% of people will remember that. Another technique that we learned for presentations is only talking 20 minutes, but booking 1 hour so we can leave questions for the end. And a great tool that I learned about PowerPoint presentations are the 5x5 rule. And that's, you should not have more than 5 lines on a slide, and each line should not be more than 5 words. Thank you for your time.
Oh my God, Declan, so cool. I just had one quick question. How has your communication and relationship changed after asking people what's your communication preference? How has that affected probably relationships and how you get work done and communicate with each other? What do you think?
So like I said, my preferred communication style was email, and that
Right.
can take a long time and it can be a lot of misunderstandings. So it helps me be more direct and ask questions. And I mean, we're face to face, so it's much easier and quicker to get done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it may not be preferred, but boy, if you're trying to cut to the heart of things and get things done, it's the way to go. Oh my God. Carlene, what do you think?
I thought it was great. Again, it's all about the beginning and the end, and not that the content in the middle wasn't good, but I loved when you talked about eye contact in the first slide. You actually made it a point to look at the camera. So even, I don't know if you consciously did it, but it was like you punctuated the words with what you were saying. So I thought that was really powerful. I thought you nailed it. I thought the whole 5x5 rule was so clear. And it appears that you got it. I was very impressed.
Oh, so happy.
Thank you.
Yay. Well, don't you all look pretty? Just thought I'd say that. Okay, so who's up next?
I'll go next.
And Jacqueline, if you could stay with us, we'd love to have you. So, you know, if you don't have to run with the kids, that would be awesome. I'm sorry, who is next, please?
I'll go next.
Oh, hi, Anthony. Good to see you, my
Hi.
friend.
Good to see you.
Now,
So,
do you have your PowerPoint ready, or do I need to show it for you?
I can share it.
Okay.
I was also under the impression about the rubric thing that Carlene was bringing up. I also saw the one that said 3 elements. I thought that was the one we were going off of, just so you're aware. So mine covers 3, just so you know.
I don't know what I was looking at, but I looked at assignment 2 and I got the rubric. That's fine. Anthony, give us your top 3.
Yeah, no problem. Let me just share my screen.
Okay. And Anthony, while you're looking, Amir, do I need to download yours and show for you, or what?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. I will. No problem.
Okay, good.
Any word, Anthony, why don't you do the, Anthony, can you hear us? Okay, I'm going to throw something in chat to Anthony, to everybody. If I
while he fixes his connection, I could go next if you need me.
Our Center for Leadership class on professionalism and presence.
Okay, I think we lost him.
I can go. If
Okay,
nobody
Namir,
else is on.
if Marion, did you get a chance to download it yet?
Yep, I got it. Hold on one
Okay.
sec.
So I had to make some adjustments because I was preparing to literally present for 20 minutes. I had to switch it up. I was going to present the wrong one. Like I had 20 minutes prepped in my head to talk for 20 minutes. So I had to switch.
Amir, you could have taught the class.
Yeah, but it was, and I had to switch it to assignment. I was going to present assignment 1 by accident.
Okay.
And that would have went left for me.
All right, my friend, can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right, so Namir, we're going to do
Slideshow.
something just a teeny tiny bit different for you. When you want me to go next, just say that next slide,
All right.
and I'll move it forward. Okay.
Okay, and
Okay.
before, Namir, before you start, Anthony, we've moved to Namir because we lost you. So we're going to save you, but after Namir's presentation, just so you knew.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, my friend, we're ready to go.
Okay. This is my capstone, basically just to sum up everything that we've covered over week to week throughout every session. You can start to the next slide, please. First, I remember back in session 1, the thing that I took from it that was very important to me was basically the handshake. And because I work in a office where I run into a lot of executives and everything like that, I like to introduce myself. And for me, it was very important that the handshake was something that I needed to do when I introduced myself. It had to be a firm handshake. That's, in my opinion, is like a sign of authority. I feel as though the better your handshake and the way you present yourself, people will respect you in a professional setting. So for me, that was everything. And then next slide, please. Okay. Can you hear me? Oh. The next week, I remember vividly about the Lewis model. I enjoyed it. For me, I liked it because I was able to interact with one of my coworkers who was of Hispanic descent. And it was fun because I was able to read off all the traits from that nationality before I actually showed them the model and asked them about the model. I basically just masked it up. And it was just a coincidence how everything I asked them lined up with all the answers that they gave me. And I felt like it was interesting that even for myself and from our country, a lot of the traits that I had for myself matched up with the chart as well. So that was that was the sole thing that I remembered. And I really liked that from that session. Next slide, please. Third, especially making a great first impression. For me, the things that you say when you first introduce yourself and meet somebody, they last forever. I still remember a lot of things that we all said during our first session when we all introduced ourselves, where we came from, what year we might have graduated Newman, what we're currently doing with ourselves. And that basically gave everyone, I feel as though, a perception of each other. When we all introduced ourselves, we had that first conversation, and that was very important for me. And that's the thing that I took away from that session. And I feel as though wherever you go, whether it's a new job, you're going out to a party or anything like that, you meet somebody for the first time, that first impression is everything for me. And that's something that I wanted to shed some limelight on. Next slide. the next session was basically when we discussed how important a business outing was. Maybe if you wanted to close a business deal, you wanted to discuss something important within an organization or somebody from another organization. Maybe y'all wanted to collab to bring a deal up for together. I felt as though when deciding to put something like that together, there's a lot of factors that go into it. The location, the restaurant you choose, or anything of that nature is very important. You don't want to be somewhere where it's too loud, it's too much of distractions. I feel as though the menu should have a nice variety. You never know who might be there. You don't want to be there and people are not happy about what's on the menu. They can't eat. They might not like the drinks. They're uncomfortable, and it might lead to not being able to get into the real conversation and the point of the meeting. I feel as though great scenery will always attribute to a great conversation, a good meal. You can always have a positive conversation depending on the location, the scenery, the food itself, where everybody might decide to order. And also paying is basically a good way to show that you are serious about the conversation and the guest, whoever you bring there. Next slide, please. Foundational skills for me is becoming a better active listener, because in the previous session, I remember you giving us all the words, asking us to write the words down, asking us if we could remember all the words, asking us the first word that you said, the last word that you said, and it's so easy to miss. The slightest thing that you can miss can end up being very important. So I feel as though active listening is something that I feel as though I can improve on, because you never know, it could be the slightest thing that could lead to something beneficial that you could have missed out on. So just communication in general, you never know what could lead to a better opportunity for yourself if you just communicate the right way and to the right people. So that was basically the things that I liked and took from each week that I felt as though was important to me, and I felt that I could utilize going forward as I progress in my professional career.
Nice job.
Oh, so cool. Namir, I want to, and everyone, this is for all of you. When we talked about, and I neglected to say this, but when we talked about, sharing a meal, don't think that, everybody you meet is like, let's have lunch, because we'd all be broke. Okay. So it would be, for like a special occasion. And when I say that, you're, as Namir said, you're trying to close a deal, you want to make a presentation one-on-one, so it doesn't have to be all the time. That's number one. So when we talked about, dining etiquette, it's for those occasions, and those occasions don't need to be every meeting. That's number one. Number two, if you like meeting and, you'd like to do something that's in a dining type atmosphere, Starbucks is always a good choice, because you can get a coffee or a tea or another, hot chocolate beverage, sit in the corner. They always have meeting spaces, and you could do something a lot less expensive, still personal, and have the same type of agenda. So just keep in mind that there's a variety of places you can go. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be fancy. And it doesn't have to be all the time. Okay, but Namir, so appreciate that. I really like the comment about the environment, because if you've got like construction outside, it's like, what? So that environment is kind of important to set the tone. Good. Carlene?
You would have loved the next one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The other one, I'm telling you, I had 20 minutes for you. I'm telling you.
Okay. Well, do you want to just talk about the last one?
No, I'm talking about the whole other assignment that I would have accidentally presented, but I switched it up. I added more content to it because I had stuff ready to go to actually say. But you'll see it. You'll see it now. You'll see it.
Well, my comment is, Namir, we talked at 2:30, and between 2:30 and 5:30, you put together an amazing deck. So congratulations to you. I loved the opening slide that had the capstone and the cornerstone. I don't know if anybody else saw that, but I thought that was really, again, you did a lot of great visuals. That was the first one that jumped out at me. The second one that I liked, and I don't know if anybody else saw it, but you had a picture of when you were talking about dining, you had the picture of somebody with each person had a glass of wine, but one person had water, which is a part of our conversation that we had, is that you do not have to get a drink. So I don't know if you did that purposefully or not, but I love this. I thought that was great. I like that you talked about and remembered that it's always important to pay, because again, if we are in the situation that we've made the proactive, request to get together, that we need to do that. And I really like with the Lewis model that you actually used it at work. So not only talking about it in class, but actually taking it to work with the Hispanic guy that you were sharing the story with. And then again, to wrap it up, I like the fact that you actually identified your weaknesses and your listening skills and that you wanted to improve them. So again, I thought you did a fabulous job.
Agreed.
Thanks.
Well done, guys. Awesome. Thanks, Namir. And you know what, Namir, I want to just talk about one other thing that you did, which I thought was really super. You had a backup. So you were ready to talk for 20 minutes and you're like, no, I got 3 to 5. But you had a backup if somebody said, can you tell us more? And that's good. When you prepare for a meeting, to have something else in your back pocket in case I've got more time, my next appointment canceled, let's continue. So it was on, you did it fast, you did it on the fly, you did it well, but you could have gone longer if you needed to. So excellent. Well done. All right. Who's up next, my friends?
I can try again if you'd like.
Sure. Now, Anthony, you're going to show your own presentation. Is that right?
I can do that, yes. Can you still hear me? Am I good?
Yeah, but you know what? I'm hearing you, and then I see your mouth move. So do you want me to show for you? Because I have everything downloaded on my tab.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Would that be okay? All right.
Yes.
I too was prepared. All right, let's see here.
I might be having an internet problem, so I just turned off my camera for the moment, but
yeah. God blesses everyone, right? All right. Share. Anthony.
okay, can everyone still hear me? Are we good?
Yes.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Hando. This is my capstone assignment for our professionalism and presence class. You can go next slide. So this is just a brief overview of what I'm going to cover. So I'm going to talk about certain elements in the course, 3 specifically, that really helps me grow as I prepare for my college graduation coming up in May. How these elements have impacted my current work experience and my internships, as well as my part-time job at Starbucks, which I'll make a really interesting connection about that in a little bit. How these skills will continue to go beyond this professionalism course, and a brief conclusion and wrap up. You can go to the next slide. So the professionalism attire in the workplace was one of the elements of this course that I truly found very inspirational and very forward thinking. It was really important for me to learn it just because I plan on pursuing a career in the professional sports industry. And that's an industry that's becoming a lot more flexible and a lot more adaptive to current trends and modernalities in regards to dress. So it was really interesting to see that connection there. It really prepared me to be more inquisitive and flexible, as well as it allowed me to adjust my current attire. So when I would intern, even though it's remotely, I would get myself in full attire and get ready to be on camera. But now I've realized that none of my bosses do that either. And we all have a very cameras off type of environment. So why should I do the same? I need to adapt to that environment. And in the future, it's going to provide me confidence to acknowledge and recognize any kind of trends or what I'm seeing in the office, so I can best suit them for me and fit in, quote unquote. Okay, you can go to the next one. The Lewis model was honestly the biggest takeaway for me in this whole course. I really learned a lot from it, and the cultural types is something right in my background, wanting to do something in the DEI realm. It was great to learn more about this. So it's kind of taught me more to become more aware of exactly who I'm working with, who I'm potentially selling to or collaborating with, and how to best properly gauge those conversations based on this model of how people may act based on their culture. It's also provided me a deeper perspective. And I think it also really gave me a sense of consciousness beyond what I had before about how to speak to others in my other roles, that we talk a lot about culture, diversity, and being able to speak with anyone and make sales, and being able to do that in the best way possible. The Lewis model has drove that point home. And in the future, it's going to kind of serve as a guideline for me to truly understand how to deal with even the most tough and unpleasant that we may face in the workplace, and get through that in a way that's not only corresponding to my style, but also to their good for the next one. The written and verbal etiquette. So this was really important for me, as my future career path is going to have a lot to do with email and writing over the phone. And it really gave me the skills to be more cautious on everything and make sure I'm not using jargons or acronyms that may not be understood. It improved my consciousness when I'm writing emails or any sort of communication, because I'm talking to someone, I would rather be more on the safer via my emails so I can be done with it faster. And then in the future, this is going to serve me as fundamental knowledge and suit me well for the professional world. Hey, continue. Other takeaways. So you just mentioned a bit about how for like the dining portion of things, it really helps with having that like place to go that isn't necessarily formal and fancy. So I actually work at Starbucks, and I see this enacted all the time, where people come and have like business meetings in a little corner. They order their refreshers or chai teas and sit there together and have business meetings. And I think this class really helped me come to the realization of how normal that is. I previously would have believed that having a business lunch is something that had to be formal, but in reality, we are just people at the end of the day. We're human beings, all have feelings and emotions. And if we could come down to earth every once in a while and just sit at a Starbucks and have a business meeting and still get done what we need to get done, I think that's really forward thinking of us and is something great. Next slide. And then just in conclusion, those elements that I discussed really have helped me improve my professionalism skills and my on upcoming abilities upon my graduation in May to just be more professional while also establishing a presence and just kind of being that person that's just like flexible and just ready for anything and everything, as well as being culturally aware and conscious. Thank you.
Oh my God, so cool. So cool. So Anthony, I have like 2 quickies for you.
Okay.
The camera's on and off.
Yes.
That's interesting, because they're probably sitting there in their jammies with, hair like all over. And that's why they don't want those cameras on. But, I like the fact that you're prepared, because one day somebody's going to say, okay, everyone, let's turn on our cameras, and you've got to look pretty.
Right.
So, being prepared, even though those cameras aren't on, is so important, because you never know. Okay. And the other one that I really liked is what you talked about with diversity and inclusion and the Lewis model. And I think it was pretty insightful, because the Lewis model helps you understand. And I think a lot of the diversity and inclusion training that organizations deliver to the employees, talk about, we're different, we need to be diverse, that kind of stuff. But it doesn't help you understand like how we're different, and that we're not abrupt, or we're not short, or we're not verbose, okay, because of things that we don't like. It's because of the way we are culturally, potentially.
Yes.
And I think that was really good, because it does give you that understanding. That was awesome. Awesome.
Thank
Carlene,
you.
what do you think?
So I'm an agenda person. So even though we didn't require anybody to do an agenda, I love the agenda. because I like to know where we're starting and I like to know where we're ending. So again, it's extra credit for me. It doesn't mean anything to anybody else. Congratulations on graduating. That is a huge feat. And,
Thank you.
we look forward to you going out and making such a difference in the world once May happens. I also like the Lewis model and your conversations about DEI and not only the awareness, but you took it deeper than that. And again, the Lewis model is a great starting point, but I felt like you really embraced it and then dug deeper. So again, I thought that was, wonderful. And then your conversation about Starbucks is so true. And Marion made the point earlier, and you reinforced it, is those business meetings are happening all around us. And so it doesn't have to be in a formal restaurant in order for it to happen. And I love Starbucks because they don't kick you out. They let you sit there and have whatever conversation you have, which is great. So nice job.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Awesome. Okay, Melissa, BJ, who's next?
Matter, me or Melissa?
Flip a
I
coin.
was gonna say I can go. Whoever.
Flip a coin.
All right, whoever Marion pulls up.
Okay, so question, folks, do you want me to present or for you? Or are you gonna, yeah?
Yes. Can you pull up the presentation for me?
Absolutely. Okay, BJ, my friend, you're gonna be up. And you know what else, guys, that I really liked, in general about your flexibility, and PJ and Melissa, this does not put any pressure on you by any means. But I said, I'll share it and all you have to do is tell me next. Now, Carlene and I are used to that, but you're not. Seamless. So way to go. Okay. Come on.
I see it.
Okay, PJ, my friend, you're up and running.
All right. Good evening, everyone. For those who don't know, my name is PJ. And I'm going to share with you a couple of lessons that stood out to me that was significant in my education in this course. So one of the first things that stuck out to me was a Dress to Impress article that we had read. It was an article that we read about clothing and how the office and professional space are getting back to in-person meetings, in person when it comes to dressing. And what I learned is that the pulse of the dress code in the office has changed a little bit and still trying to get back to its, I guess, former glory, original space. It's important that we dress appropriate for the occasion that we're in, where we're either in person or is in a casual setting, or is in a business setting, a lunch setting. And I think one of the things that stood out to me is that we still have not solidified, since coming out of the pandemic, what the appropriate work clothing is. I think we have taken a space back because of Zoom, because of virtual meetings and the virtual space. We have taken a step back and kind of relaxed a little bit, but I do still think that there is a unspoken standard when it comes to dressing in a business setting that the article alluded to. Next. Another significant lesson that stood out to me was the Lewis model and culture. We're in an ever-growing global economy and ever-growing global space, and especially since everything has been a little bit more international, especially with the pandemic and a space that virtual, we can reach other parts of the world from being in the comfort of our zip code. Understanding cultures and respecting different cultures and meeting different cultures where they're at. A lot of times we want to draw in cultures to assimilate to what we're used to make us feel comfortable. But it's important as a business professional that you learn to learn other cultures and how to communicate with them so we can come to one resolution. I think that within the culture, within the conversation of the cultural context, a lot of times we want to learn respect, but we want kind of like one shifted, one side of people to respect us. But it's important to understand that we're here for a common goal. Low context and high context was a concept that was new to me. Never heard it before. It stood out to me. Learning even within our own culture, individuals who are low context, individuals who are high context, and we can still work together in order for us to achieve a common goal, even though we might approach that situation differently. Understanding we have different values, which might make us low context and high context. Understanding that we come up with different upbringings that might make us low context or high context, or understanding emotional intelligence. Next. What to say. So meeting someone for the first time, having that first impression really does change a lot of the relationship, or establishes rather the relationship between two people, a group of people from then on. I think when you first meet someone, you have an impression in your head. And I believe that we learn, you know, after 2 minutes or 3 minutes, I think I might be quoting it wrong, that we begin to form judgments about the person that we're meeting. And so that is one concept that stood out to me, because I'm like to think of myself as a person who always observes, and a person who always wants to come to understand why a person is saying or acting the way they are. So understanding people when you first meet them, it's not to make a judgment call, but it's more so to understand how are you going to work in this particular space. What goals do you have for this relationship? Is it going to be business? Is it going to be casual? Is it going to be, professional? Is it going to be long term? Is it going to be short term? And I think knowing those concepts when you first meet someone is important in order for you to know how to communicate with them, because someone that you're going to establish a long-term relationship with, you may not be as in debt or as intimate with. Rather, someone you're going to establish a short-term relationship with, you're not going to be as in debt or intimate with, versus someone you're going to have a long-term business or professional relationship with, that you might share some personal things when you're first meeting, in those first couple of meetings. Your elevator speech, everyone should have an elevator speech or some sort of line in their head when they're meeting someone who they want to establish a relationship with. Rather is, a CEO, someone who's an executive, a celebrity, or anyone that can really help you move your trajectory of your business or your life to the next level. Understanding what needs to be said in those first couple moments are pivotal.
Excellent.
Next. Dine on why not. This was another concept that I always personally thought that alcohol was off the table when having the business lunch or business meeting. I do understand that it is okay if it is limited and if you establish those parameters when you're first meeting with someone. Personally, I don't think it's appropriate within a business setting. However, I think everyone has to come to that point where they draw a boundary and a barrier and what's comfortable for them. Whatever's comfortable for you in that setting or space, I think you should go forth and pursue that if it's okay. Having an agenda for the meeting is pivotal. Having a book was still appropriate in this day and age of a digital space, writing down everything. Having your phone, which I thought was out of the equation, is actually okay if you're using it as a instrument to determine time, or instrument to determine, your key points, or establishing that protocol with your client to say, this is why I have my phone out. I'm just checking the time. I'm checking the space. And it could be used for research as well. If there's a question that comes up from your client that you can't answer, you don't have written down, you can get to it quicker if you have access on your phone. Next. Effective communication, jargons and work words, knowing how to communicate with that potential client or other business person that you're dealing with, knowing what words to say, what words not to say, because not everybody will understand your everyday work language because it's specific to you. Having a pitch to the boss, active listening, knowing that people are listening to the first couple words you say and the last couple words you say. And so kind of everything in between is kind of mush, and we have our own concept of what the message is. But coming off with a strong pitch, initial pitch, and ending with a strong initial pitch in order to communicate with your client or boss. And that's everything. Thank you.
Anthony, the one thing that struck me, and I
PJ.
never, what did I say that for? PJ, the one thing that struck me that I never thought of before was being ready with your 1 minute, who are you, in the back of your mind when someone asks you, versus just formal networking. And I'm thinking of, running into people at work, like a higher level person. It's like, I never saw you before. Who are you? And you're like, and when that's the first thing that comes out, they're like, that's what they remember. But yeah, being able to kind of pull that out of your back pocket and, just tell people who you are. Awesome. I thought that was so useful advice for all of us to be ready to just make an introduction or respond. I've never seen you before. Who are you? And just kind of tell someone. I thought that was great. Different than others. So well done. Carleen?
Well, I had written that down also because I thought we talk about elevator speech all the time. And the way we present it is you should have it so that you know what your purpose is. But I like the fact that you changed it up a bit because you don't know when you're going to run into somebody that you need to tell them who you are without so I think that was great.
Yeah.
So again, it was punctuated on mine too. Great PowerPoints. I don't know if you have Microsoft 365, but you got great graphics, and I'm all about visual, so I'm cool with that. I love dine and wine not.
That was very funny.
That was very nice, tongue in cheek, nice play on our conversations that we had in class. I thought that was really good. Oh, I loved how you opened. You gave a nice introduction. You said those that don't know me, and you kind of smiled because we all know you. I am PJ. So you did a nice casual start of your presentation without saying, I'm starting my presentation now. So you did that really nicely. Interesting conversation about clothing. And again, the discussion about, we had the approved clothing, and then, the video or I think it was a YouTube video that we showed that said, things are changing up a little bit. And you're right. There are some companies that are trying to go back to the way it used to be. And that gate is closed. And so it's interesting to see how this new clothing thing is going to be playing out. Again, Lewis model, everybody's done a great job talking about it. I like the fact that you didn't know what content and context differences were. And then you added EQ, which we didn't talk about at all. So I love EQ. So that was cool. And then the 7 seconds and the 4 minutes. Again, I liked how you kind of thought it through, because if you're having a one and done meeting, those first 7 seconds are only interesting, but you never know if that first 7 seconds is going to find you somebody that says, I want to continue a relationship with them later. So I like how you kind of thought it through the presentation. So I thought you did a great job, and we should go dine and why not?
That's that was a really cool use of humor, subtle humor. And all of us don't have to be funny, but we got it without, ha ha ha. And that was really cool. So well done. You guys. Woohoo. Hi, Melissa. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good. Are you in your law office or is that a fake background?
It's just my office.
It's very cool. Do you want me to
Thank
show
you.
your presentation or you want to do yours?
I
don't
added something to mine, so I'll share
Okay,
from my end.
cool. Oh, slick.
I was gonna say, can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna start out with a joke because I think
Oh
of
my
myself
God, that's
kind of,
hysterical.
yeah, I think of myself before this course where I was professional a little bit but still like was lacking confidence and still needed to work on some things. And now after, I just feel like, I'm definitely more confident and more professional. So
I love that picture. That is
thank you.
stunning. Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So week one, we discussed social etiquette and first impressions. And I know that we talked about me lacking confidence, and that was something that I definitely tried to work on in this course and is one of my biggest takeaways. And I definitely think that my confidence has improved. I see myself taking more initiative to do things and being more outgoing and talking to people, even if it makes me uncomfortable. And for handshaking, that is something that I'm still working on, but I've noticed the way that I go into handshakes and actually how often like men don't shake firmly back. So I'll go in with a firm handshake and they're just like, sometimes it's very like I'm fragile or something. So I find it very interesting that I pay attention to it more. But I'm definitely trying to go in with a more like confident handshake now. And when we did learn about the 7 seconds for first impressions, that's something that terrifies me still, because my goal is to become a litigator. So I'm dealing with 12 jurors. And if they're making an impression about me in 7 seconds based on my client, that makes me a little nervous because I don't want them to have a negative impression or anything and have that affect my client in any way. So I'm glad that over time, I'll have a few days or hours to kind of change their perception, but it is still a little nerve-wracking. But I did want to compare it because I had a mock trial that I competed in and which had jurors, and I made sure to go in really warm when I first came in. I was like, that 7 seconds when you first walk in is so important. So I made sure I paid attention to that. And I think it worked out well. I was told I have a good natural presence. So I'm glad that is what somebody said. So yeah, week one was a really good week for that. And then week two with strategic business etiquette, understanding different cultures and going back to the jurors thing. I think that is really important because you have, a justice system that it's a little antiquated still. So my job as an attorney is to definitely get 12 people to come together and take any bias that they have away from my client. And I would have to understand the different cultures that people are coming from and find a way to bring us all together and just look at the facts and not have any type of personal bias affecting anything. So for me, I really enjoyed this week to understand the difference between high context and low context, and really want to do a good job at preventing any type of misunderstandings, because again, I don't want that to have any type of an impact on the client. For week 3 and business networking, we learned about the elevator speech, and I'm make sure that I have it ready now. I know PJ mentioned it, but I definitely try to make sure that I have it at least a minute prepared and ready to go. But I think there's about 7 different law schools in North Carolina, and all within an hour of each other. So the market is extremely saturated, and it's very difficult to get a job in this market. So for me, what stood out is what makes me different and trying to come up with something that would make me stand out and really paying attention to that. So me pushing my compassion and past mental health experience is really what I try to do now. And being an attorney is a lot of client counseling. So I think that that's kind of helped me with people being like, oh, that's a really good connection to have. Where before I started school, I didn't feel that way because I thought you just had to have legal experience. So I'm glad that I learned that. And I've really been trying to push myself to network more and not just stay in the people, like stay with the people that I know. And so I reached out to two of the attorneys at my firm and just asked them for their trial calendars because I've never really gone to hearings before. And they both emailed me back and gave me like their full trial hearings calendar for the year. So they said, just let me know when you want to come and you're more than welcome to come and sit in. So it's definitely pushed me outside my comfort zone, but I'm very excited and it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So week 4 and business dining etiquette. This one I still struggle with because I'm a very messy eater and I'm not going to lie about it. So I definitely try to review the menu beforehand. And for me, it's about finding food that I can cut into small pieces and is kind of tiny so I don't have to worry about being messy. And I'll sacrifice for that lunch and it will be okay. So the one I went on recently, I made sure I found like small little bites that I could just cut up and eat, and you know, I wasn't a mess. So that was good. Week 5, written and verbal etiquette is very important, and for the business and computer jargon. And I remember my first day at my job, I was so stressed out because everything they use is just acronyms. And I think like halfway through the day, I reached out to my supervising attorney and I said, I don't know what any of this means. I need you to slow down. And eventually we kind of all came together and we came up with coming up with an acronym book for all like new hires to have. So now we did a monkey survey and everybody like went and typed in all the acronyms that they used. And then they typed it up and now every new employee will get that. So everybody knows what is happening. And legalese is something that is very stressed because we have a lot of like Latin words that we use. And coming from a background where I don't have any legal experience, I really try to stress this because you don't want to lose the client and then be so confused and just say, yeah, I know what you're talking about, but they have no idea. So I've really tried to pay attention to breaking things down in layman's terms and not using these big words or Latin words. And because I don't ever want the client to feel like they're not being heard or they don't know what's going on. So I found that part really important. And then for week 6, the biggest takeaway that I had was the mission and vision. And I think each law firm has such a different way that they handle things. And for me, I've always wanted to work somewhere that did align with my values because that's something that I don't ever want to sacrifice, especially dealing with the law. So I ended up being lucky enough to work at the firm that I do. And I wanted to show it because they actually have their own like 24 behaviors and it's called like the JSF way. And they give this to all their employees and it goes to like each of their different values, but they have 24 of them and it's like this. And
Wow.
so it's something that I really appreciate them because the CEO will send out weekly one of the 24 behaviors and talk about how somebody displayed it. And I think it is really important and everybody I know there follows it. So I really love that. And I really wanted to do something to create a plan for an opportunity because my externship had ended and I already knew that I was coming back for the summer to work, but I've been with them. I had an internship over the summer and then this fall externship, and I wanted to meet with the CEO to just kind of express how interested I was working for them after I graduate. And this is something that I never would have done before this course. So I really just wanted to reach out and say, like, I really enjoy working here. And I ended up doing that and meeting with him, and he ended up offering me a job for post-graduation. So I was very excited that I took the opportunity to do it, and it went really well. So I've learned so much throughout this course.
I'm in tears.
Nice job.
Oh my God. Melissa, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. So guys, I have a little more feedback on Melissa's because hers was so different. And I'm so glad that you got the feedback on the mock trial that, you know, you had a natural presence, because it doesn't mean you have to go, hey, how's it going? It's not that. It's just what you did. So that was just tremendous. And I think when we get that kind of feedback, guys, from anybody, it validates we're doing what we're practicing, and it's showing. So that was wonderful. I never thought about the Lewis model with the jurors. Awesome. Because, you know, relating your client to the jury and having the jury understanding the jury and where they're coming from, I thought that was amazing. And you had said, Melissa, how do I stand out, or, you know, words to that effect. Well, you know what, and especially in a competitive job market, but you've figured out how to make that stand out, because the social science, which we were all over when you said that, and your mental health and social sciences background is like what makes you stand out. Because yeah, it's like, well, I'm a lawyer, I went to law school, I was on moot court. Yeah. You know, you little robot, but that's not who you are. Okay. And that's what makes you stand out. So I thought that was a good blend. And so I'm glad we practiced that, because that is your difference in my mind. And then the distinction between your language with your clients, that's in English, and your maybe Latinese with your colleagues. Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, how can we adapt so people get what we're saying based on the audience, and those audiences are like at opposite ends of the spectrum. And I think, and then the asking for the trial calendars, why was that so scary? Or why were you like, I don't know if I should do that?
So the specific department that I've been working in has been pre-litigation. So I know next summer I'm working with litigation. They scare the crap out of me, I'm not gonna lie. They are just very intimidating, and I've never been to a trial before. So I was like, I need to experience it though. I need to get this experience before I do this next summer, so I don't go in terrified. So I think just reaching out, and if they said no, I would definitely have understood, because they may not want me in the courtroom if that's happening, but they are young. The two I reached out to, they were younger and have been only practicing for 3 years. So they were more than willing to just, they said anybody, you could go to anybody's and they would not have an issue with it. So
there you go. So maybe the terrifying demeanor is the way they are in prep and in the courtroom. Yeah. But you know what? They're just your colleague when it comes to help, you know. So I thought that was really good. And there's another, what makes me different. Who's going to do that? Okay, who's going to do? They're not. So that was another, in my mind, check, a big check for you, feather in your cap. And then the last one, I was like dying over, the jargon journal. That was like priceless. And guys, it was such a great idea, because, you know, if you have the courage, and that's what it takes, to speak up and say, I have no idea what you're talking about. Can you explain these acronyms? It actually stops people in their tracks, because dollars to donuts, most people have never said that. And that solution of publishing a list of jargon acronyms is kind of so cool, because now it's like, okay, guys, we know you don't understand, here you go. And that makes it fun and educational versus, what do you mean you don't understand? You're an attorney, you should, which is punitive. When you can shift to a learning opportunity versus a punitive engagement, it's much better. And then of course, the last one with the values. That's what it's all about, guys. So when Carlene talked about mission, vision, values, and the values are what you live, so you can fit and be a part of that organization. That's what Melissa was demonstrating with those 24. And, kind of calling out, what value, Melissa lived this value this week by doing X. Jacqueline lived this value by doing Y. PJ lived this value by doing Z. Reinforces that these are the behaviors we're looking for. And so, Melissa, you found that you like that kind of fit and their behaviors that you're comfortable with. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate everything that they do. I mean, everything is just an open dialogue, and
Yeah.
the CEO is just so involved, and they have these lunches every single month where anybody can ask whatever question they want, and like anything, it can be personal questions, anything, and he just goes on and he answers all of them. So it's a very open communication environment,
Yeah.
and something that I really appreciate, and not something you see often with a lot of law firms.
Sure.
So they're very modern, which is good.
Yeah. But those values is what gives you that comfort in your organization. So when you say it's really fun, it's because they're doing what you value and vice versa. So, Melissa, I'm so glad to see that shift. That was amazing. I'm so happy for you, truly. Carlene?
All right, Marion covered a lot of it, but I had a different take on some of them, which was, and again, all positive. It's just a different way. You talked about your, I called it the Idiot's Guide to Acronyms. And the only comment that I would make about that is that doesn't give you or anyone else in the organization permission to just say, go look it up. So, if you do have new people, you still have to say, it means ABA is American Bar Association. But you could say in jest, you can say, everybody asked me what it is, so I'll tell you what it is. But it's also on page 173, line 6 in the Idiot's Guide Handbook or something. You can play with that. But because they've created this document doesn't give them a pass to say, we'll just go look it up. So that was the one comment I wanted to make on that. You talked about the 7 seconds, and I love the fact that you were thinking about, how you're making an impression on the jury pool. But one of the things, two things that came to mind that you didn't mention, you probably thought about is, one, it's making an impression on the judge, but how your client needs to also pay attention to her or his first 7 seconds. So, it's full circle. It's not just about you. It's about everyone in that room is the first time for everything. So, and again, not that I'm bringing in or promoting a TV show, and it's, obviously a TV show, but it's Bull. Have you ever seen Bull? Okay, yeah. So the same kind of thing, how you walk, how you talk, and what you say matters. So that's those first 7 seconds, obviously in a sitcom. I loved your before and after picture. That was a really great start that really got us all, engaged with your presentation. And the other thing that I like that you did, I don't have anything to grab because I have a backdrop behind me, but you actually pulled out your JSF book and you showed it to us. And again, without a backdrop, it came out clear. So again, you broke the fourth wall and you actually let us into your life. And that is a very powerful tool when you do Zoom. Confidence. You've talked about how you felt one way at the beginning of the class and how over time it's gotten better. I will tell you two things. One is we see it. So I see it. I know Mariana sees it. But the other thing is that you really embrace leaning into discomfort. And we don't want you to lose that when you leave our class, because that was a huge step these 7 weeks, and just keep doing it. And you gave us great examples. The trial calendar, getting the trial calendar. The only thing I wrote down for that one, because I thought it was a great idea also, is think about questions that you might want to ask, because whoever's trial you're listening to, whoever the lawyer is, they're going to be passionate about what they do. And this is your opportunity to just keep asking those questions. And so, having pre-planned questions, and you can say, you know what, I had 6 questions I was going to ask. I threw them all out after I, listened to what you had to say, but at least have something in your hip pocket. And again, your elevator pitch, I wrote it down and then you obviously referred back to it, but I remembered your elevator pitch from 3 weeks ago, because it was a powerful differentiator. And obviously that's what you used and that's what they saw that got you the gig. So congratulations on that. Oh, and I love how in your actual presentation, you put in how you tied what we talked about back to your work. You talked about the mock trial, you talked about the jury pool, you talked about, things that, related back to your day job. So again, nice job.
Yeah.
And I think we got them all, Marion.
Yeah, we did. So guys, I just had two quickies for you. And Jacqueline, I was thinking about you when Melissa was making her presentation, because if you wanted to get, and I don't know how open people would be to this, but if you wanted to get promoted, which I know you see yourself, on a career path, what's the job or business sector that you want to work in? And if you have networked into one of the contacts in that, maybe you could do a job shadow on a Friday afternoon, just to kind of, see what it's like. And again, it's like Melissa, you get your face in front of people. People say, what are you doing here? Who are you? Tell me about your background. And so all of a sudden you're building relationships for the next job. So I don't know how open people would be, but it kind of gives you that entree unofficially and puts you, in front of people. So that was just, something to consider. All right. And the only two other things I wanted to mention was that, especially for networking. So when I give feedback on assignments, I write a book. Sorry. So if you want feedback on especially the networking assignments, go back into Gradebook, and I have, detailed feedback. Sometimes it's suggestions, sometimes it's, change this, sometimes it's what about, as well as what you wrote. So if you're interested, there's feedback from me and Carlene on all of your assignments. So, go in and see, because they could also be learning opportunities for you. All right. What questions do you have for us before we say good evening? We good? Well, guys, it's been a wonderful opportunity to meet and work with you. I mean, what a wonderfully talented, bright group of individuals. And we really appreciate your participation and all you learned over and how you applied it over the past 6 weeks. So thanks so much. And I do hope our paths cross again in the future. Carlene?
Definitely. Same to me. You guys have been engaging. You have been fun. You are also our guinea pigs, because we had to work with a platform that we were not used to. And you guys worked with us as we came into this whole Zoom area, and it's been fun. And I was joking earlier that says, we're going to be at 7 weeks. Now I'm saying, oh my gosh, our 7 weeks are up. So again, heartfelt wishes that you guys have an amazing career, an amazing life, and professionalism and presence is just that much better because you spent time with us. So thank you.
So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all,
Yes.
to you and your families. Thanks so much, guys.
Bye.
Bye.